Understanding policy is going to be a real differentiating capability for companies of the future. We've made striking progress in advancing the energy transition, but there's just this huge gap between rhetoric and reality. The pressure on governments to act is increasing, but then the nature of what they need to do is incredibly complex. When you've got policy making at a national level, but the economic sectors work globally, making that 3D chess work is a real challenge. Governments have got 5 main tools in order to shape markets. First, pricing. They can make high carbon stuff more expensive. They can make green stuff cheaper. Disclosure. They can force transparency on the system, maybe hoping that investors or consumer will drive different choices. Standard setting. So that's, regulation or mandates to force the market to adopt certain technologies. Direct funding, so they can have infrastructure projects, or they can give grants, or they can do communications campaigns. The major economies use these tools in different ways, according to their political economy and the instincts and history of these countries. So how these different types of systems interact can be quite challenging. So for the EU, for example, maintaining this pricing and regulatory approach is really tricky when your 2 major trading partners are doing exactly the opposite. So what's really encouraging about the world we live in today is how many businesses, have made big commitments to transition their companies. But the challenge is that for many companies, their sustainability strategy sometimes can feel in conflict with their commercial strategy. And I think we should be honest about what this is. When you cannot drive the outcomes that society needs in a commercially viable way, there's a word for this, it's called market failure. Policy can influence all the aspects of your market environment, and it's policy that really turns sustainability strategy into commercial strategy. I think the companies that really get ahead of policy, they will be able to make sure that their business is more resilient. Getting in there and understanding it is going to be the most critical factor, but then those that are able to shape it, can really do the most to mitigate those risks. I think policy is most exciting when you integrate it with strategy, when you think about the business that you want to become, when you think about your competitive advantages, and you start shaping the markets that you want to play in. Policy-driven markets are often short markets, so there's exceptional margins that can be made if you get ahead of the rest of your competitors and the rest of supply by serving policy-driven markets. We've seen a remarkable level of innovation from businesses over the last decade in terms of overcoming some of the transition barriers. But I think we also have to be realistic about what businesses can achieve on their own, because the transition really requires collaboration between business and government together. So businesses have sometimes a much better perspective on where the transition barriers are in their sector. And I think businesses can play a big role in helping governments understand what's needed.